Hello, all, and welcome to Frame by Frame, where we take a closer look at iconic film scenes. My name is Jennifer Hahn,
And I'm Sarah Callan.
and in today's episode, we are going to be discussing a scene from a masterpiece of a film, Parasite. This is the Wi-Fi pizza box scene that happens in the opening of the film. If you want to watch the scene, we include a link to it in our show notes. So go watch the scene and come back and listen to the rest of our conversation as we dive deeper into talking about the scene. So, Sarah, do you want to give a quick description of what happens in this scene?
Yes, in this scene, we learn that their Wi-Fi has been shut off, and so they are on a quest to find a Wi-Fi signal. And then they all come together as a family and fold pizza boxes together, while their apartment is also filled with fumigation fumes. So it's quite an ordeal.
Quite an ordeal, yes. So I think, we're wanting to cover a scene from this film, and there are so many, is what we had the fun challenge of figuring out, like, oh my gosh, like, there are so many iconic scenes from this movie. I'm sure we're going to cover more of them at some point in the future. But we kind of wanted to do a more unconventional pick. I think there's obviously some that are like very clearly well known and probably studied and analyzed. The Peach Fun, like ballet scene, I think is like one of the iconic ones. But this one, there's so much that grounds the film from this scene in the opening. So we wanted to talk and go a little bit deeper on this one. So, Sarah, what makes this opening scene from Parasite iconic to you?
Yeah, this scene is iconic to me because of the way that it roots us in this family and the dynamics between all of the characters, because this is still like early on in the film. We haven't gotten to know this family really well. We haven't spent a ton of time with them yet, and I feel like this is such a microcosm of who they are, and getting to see their dynamics as they're finding the Wi-Fi signal, as they're trying to get the pizza boxes done. Like, we learn so much about this family in this one little scene as they are dealing with these relatable and extraordinary circumstances that they're in at the same time. And so just the efficiency to be able to give us so much
Mm.
information about their family dynamics so quickly, I really appreciate. So what about you? What about this scene is so iconic to you?
Yeah, I think this scene is iconic because it establishes, I guess, similar to what you're saying, like who these characters are and what situation that they're in. And I think that informs so much of the rest of the journey that they go on. There's a lot of um, I think, emotional themes that are established in this iconic scene as well. So the one that on this watch that I was so fixated on is the shot of the mother's medals from when she was an athlete. And it comes up, I think, it's like mentioned much later on in the film briefly. So I guess spoiler alert for Parasite. But I think that shot is so significant because it showcases that despite these really harsh circumstances that this family is in, they are incredibly talented and they have had hopes and dreams and probably have never imagined that they would be in the situation that they are in right now. And so I think that emotional core gets played out over the course of the rest of the film as this family seeks for better for themselves in maybe some misinformed ways, but they are seeking to create something of themselves. And that desire to pursue a better life and fulfill those hopes and dreams, I feel like is so established in that one shot in this scene. But then also, I think we get to see it in these smaller ways with how clever they are, how the son has this emotional intuition and knows how to like smooth things over in order to make sure that his family can survive and get paid. So I think a lot of those like nuances of each of the characters too also get to come out a little bit more as well in this scene.
And we automatically feel like some level of empathy with them too. Like,
Yeah.
we you want to root for them, you know, because they are so scrappy, and they're in this really undesirable living situation, and
Yeah.
they shouldn't be, you know, like we want better for them. And so in these few minutes, we're already on their side. We're already empathizing with them and saying, okay, like we want you to succeed. We want you to be out of this situation that you find yourselves in. We don't want, your toilet to be the highest part of your house anymore. Like we can do better than this. And like you said, they go through some ways of trying to improve their situation in ways that are not great. But this starts off that, like, yeah, we're rooting for you just right from this opening scene.
Yeah, yeah, and I love seeing that there's another person outside of the family we get to see them interact with in this scene, and I think what's notable is that you can see that um, that relational dynamic and kind of the biting nature of that relationship, and based on their classes in society or their perceived positions in society, they treat each other that are informed by the way that society has taught them. And so you can feel some of that disdain from the pizza worker, and the way that kind of is a trigger for the mom, where she's like, don't like, do not treat me without that dignity, and she bites back and fights for herself and stands up for herself, and kind of her natural inclination and reaction is to stand up for herself, because you can feel that little bit of superiority that the pizza place worker has, coming to collect the boxes from this incredibly poor family in this rough neighborhood, that is subject to even having to take this job at all. And I love that the mom like claps back at her, but I think we can also see that is such a like instinctual trigger for her. So I loved even seeing like, we get to see obviously the superiority complexes play out in much more dramatic ways over the course of the rest of film, but even in these smaller subtle position differences between members of society, in this culture, that is still so present, and it is so subtle, but it is felt by everybody.
Yeah, and it's setting up that theme that is explored throughout the rest of the film, and like the class differences and all of that, and
Yeah.
this commentary on class that Parasite really is. And it starts right here, right at the beginning,
Yeah.
with that interaction. And I think that helps us to empathize with this family even more too, because it's like, it's not necessarily that they like did something to end up here, like
Yeah.
it is talking about like the larger structure and like the classes
Yeah.
and the structural inequities in South Korea. And I love that we get to see a little taste of that even in this scene that is so fun and funny, and like
Yeah.
it's that like dark humor, but it's all pointing to like, hey, there's some structural things happening here that we're going to explore, and you just get a
Mm.
taste of it in this scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the other thing that I felt, perhaps was just like I guess like a reaction to watching this scene this time around, and in isolation, is knowing where the story goes. Again, spoiler alert for Parasite. It's more tragic watching this scene than I think the first time around when I watched the scene in the context of the film, because we know what ends up happening, which is that the daughter dies. And so, as difficult and tragic as their situation is, them folding the pizza boxes together, there's this warmth that I felt, but then I was like, oh no, but that gets ripped away from them. Like, even though they are in the harshest situation, they are at least together. And um yeah, I guess, yeah, really by the end of the film, like, the whole family is separated actually. So like, I just, that was felt so much too. And I think it's so important for the that ending being as tragic and shocking as it is, because we feel the kind of like the warmth and the camaraderie of this family in the way that they banter together, or the way that they make fun of each other, the comfort and intimacy they have to like shout at each other between the rooms. And there's a feeling of that closeness in this family. And yeah, I guess that is important for this film to also establish and have us like be a part of that circle with them as they're folding the pizza boxes, and the togetherness of that moment, because that quickly gets deconstructed by the end of the film. And so that is important for the film to establish, is for us to feel like, this family is so endearing, and how close that they are together too.
And I think it also sets up, the entire rest of the film, because I I wouldn't necessarily know who to pick as like the main protagonist. Like if I had to pick one person, I would probably pick the son, but like I feel like I could make an argument for like all the members of the family to be the main protagonist in this film,
Yeah.
because it's really about the family as a unit, and as how they are like working together, and that bond, that togetherness that you were talking about. And so I love that it doesn't just introduce us to one member of the family, but we get to meet all four, and we get to see
Mm,
them working together, bantering together, all of that, trying to get their way, get the money to survive together. It's not a
mm,
mom is doing this and dad is doing this, and then they may pool their stuff together, but it's the entire family is working together on this project of, how do we survive? How do we get our phones turned back on? How do we get the money to pay the rent? Whatever it is, and they're doing it together. And I love that just kind of carries through the rest of the film, because
mm,
they're all the pivotal parts of the film they're doing together. One of them
mhm.
might get there first, but everybody else is going to come along, because it's such a close-knit family, and it's not about just one of them, it's about all of them.
Yeah, yeah. The feeling of shared collectiveness and goal together, and even the concept of like shared finances. Like when we win, when one of us wins, we all win together. Versus, it's way more Western for like if the kids to go off and make their own money, and they might bring some back or bring presents back home, but like that money is theirs to be made. But there is this feeling of like we are one ship and we are together rowing in a similar direction. I also love that this scene establishes that this family is imperfect too. I think that there's like a version of this movie that maybe paints them to be these incredibly earnest, hardworking, very dedicated, poor folk that are trying to do their best but can't. And I love that like a quarter of the pizza boxes are not folded properly, and like the way that they are maybe like earnestly desiring for trying their best, but also like in execution, like maybe are not that focused, or we're trying to like churn out more boxes to get paid, and sacrifice the quality along the way, and realizing that like, oops, like did not realize that that was going to affect how it was being received, or even like maybe trying to take the shortcut or hoping that it would get received fully and they get their full cut, which is definitely like a thread that's teased throughout the rest of the film too, of them trying to cleverly find ways to work the system. And so I love that part of this as well, is that they aren't perfect, and they aren't like earnestly dedicated to the task at all. I'm sure also all of those pizza boxes just smell like the fumigation, extermination smoke too, that is supposed to be fed to people. It's all, they are not trying to do an incredible job. They're trying to make as much as they can and game the system, because that is the society that they've lived in, and that's how they've had to figure out how to survive. And I love that that's fully on display here.
I love the inclusion of like the fumigation smoke, because it's so funny the way that this is shot. and
Yeah.
them having the conversation, and he's like, no, like free fumigation to deal with the bugs, like the bugs are out of control, let's bring it on. And the way that the smoke just like wafts into the
Oh,
frame, and then all of a sudden that's all that you can see. You can barely see the YouTube video anymore because it's so thick in there. And then I just love that you hear all of the family members coughing as it zooms in on the dad as he's folding the boxes and totally
determined.
zenned out. Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yes, I'm in my element. I'm going to get all these boxes done." And then the hard cut to that conversation with his wife and the pizza box the pizza worker, and we learn that his
Yeah.
in the zone pizza boxes actually weren't great. And
No.
so I love how all of those things go together, and they are so funny with the timing of it all. Like the way the smoke comes in, the way the room is filled, his in the zone thing, and then that hard cut, like all of those bits are so funny when you pair them all together, and everything
Yeah.
is perfectly timed throughout this scene and throughout the whole movie. Like Bong Joon-ho just understands timing and pacing so well, and you see that really clearly in this scene.
It's incredibly efficient. Like we don't linger in the smoke for too long. It's a hard cut, and immediately we don't see the pizza car delivery woman drive up, and like then she gets out. It's so lean and so tight. He's really trimmed the fat so that it really feels like in this scene and in this film in general, every shot is intentional. Every shot has meaning, and there's like literally no wasted filler at all. It's either furthering a theme, furthering a an objective, creating a moment of levity. Like it's everything feels weighty and significant in this scene. So yeah, this is such lean, clear, efficient filmmaking, which I think ensures that like we as the viewers are constantly so engaged and leaning in because we don't want to miss it. It's so great.
And it's so layered that you can discover new things every time you've watched it. Like
Yeah.
I've now watched this multiple times, and I feel like every new time that I watch Parasite, I'm like, "Oh, I never noticed that before."
Yeah.
Like in watching this scene, I was really fixated on when the son was looking for the Wi-Fi signal, and
Mm,
that shot where he's like walking down the hallway and the ceiling is taking up like half of the frame, and then in the bottom half of the frame it's just big enough for you to see the phone and his hand, and
mm-hmm.
that's it. And he's like walking down the hallway or something with his phone like that, and just that brilliance of showing, number one, how like low the
The
ceilings
ceilings
are,
are.
but then also creating that feeling of like stuckness and crampedness just
Mm-hmm.
from that one shot. Because that's not normally
So
how
good.
you would shoot something like that. You would want to see the full person, fully extended, looking for it. But
Yeah.
Bong Joon-ho knows what he's doing and knows that about this whole theme that he's communicating, and he communicates it visually throughout the entire film, that these structural inequities, these class differences, and he does that visually even here in this one little shot that I hyper fixated on this time.
Mm-hmm. That's so good. Yeah. Another shot that's like that, that is so quick too, is from kind of the POV of the family standing with the delivery person outside. And it's a shot of the dad staring out through the window. That one, I was like, oh, that single shot alone says so much. Like, here's this man that is looking to provide for his family that's like literally below ground, uh, looking up and out of kind of the window that had these bars on it too. And he's kind of is it's hazy as well. I'm sure the fumigation fumes are still in there too. And just this longing, but also this hopelessness of like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of this situation. Like it's such a visual representation of the plight that him and his family are in. And it's shot like from above too. So you're kind of like looking down at him as well as he's looking up, hoping for something that can bring him out of his situation. Oh, it's really good. That one shot too is incredible. Oh my gosh. Well,
Mm-hmm.
man, any other big things to mention. I feel like we could talk about the single scene.
Oh,
Um,
so much. But the other thing that I just wanted to mention, and we already touched on it a little bit with like how the family works together, but I love after, you know, the mom claps back at the pizza worker, and then the son comes and starts to
yeah,
like butter her up and like schmooze her a little bit and
so
is like,
good.
hey boss, like it's all right, we can be friends, right? And is like trying to like pitch himself for a job.
Yeah.
And I love that it just starts out with him, and then the sister comes onto the other side of her, and they're both standing like so close to her, like I'm feeling stressed and claustrophobic just watching this happen. But I love how she is added into the scene, and then they banter for a little bit, and then the mom comes into the scene and the sister walks behind her. And so then this pizza worker is having this family on all sides just like
Yeah.
looking at her and talking to her and involved in this. And because of that family force, she ends up paying them. And so I just
Hmm.
thought that that was another really smart way, especially for the son, to be like, sure, we might not get all 100%. We might just get 90% of this work, but I'm going to make sure that we get that money and that you don't rip me off.
Yeah.
And so you can see his, like you mentioned earlier, like his emotional intelligence and his
Yeah.
street smarts and his ability to manipulate and be like, I'm getting what I owe, and you're not going to mess with me. I'm actually going to mess with you to ensure that my family is taken care of. So
Hmm.
I love that whole little bit and that little dance that they do, because it's kind of comical the way that they are able to like move in sync like that, but also it's really intimidating what they're doing,
Yep.
and it's this interesting blend of tones that are achieved in that one little exchange. I just loved it.
Yeah. The visual staging of that was geniusly done. It's so well done. Man. I feel like there we could really go like shot for shot with this scene, with this entire film too, but there's so much meat here in this short, I think it's like 3-4 minute moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so much that's established, like we mentioned, that is then complicated, teased out, built upon, and taken on a whole journey over the course of this film. So this was our scene breakdown of this iconic early opening first act moment from Parasite. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Frame by Frame. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about this opening early scene from Parasite. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at moviesnestpod, or email us at moviesnestpod@gmail.com. Check out our website, andusmedia.co, for the latest on Movies and Us and our other podcast, TV and Us. And we are very excited because we are itching to talk more about Parasite in general and get an excuse to watch it again. And we
Mm-hmm.
have a
Always.
fabulous excuse. So we're going to tell a little bit about our guest pod coming up.
Yes. So, a friend of the pod, Clarissa, she is launching her own podcast. So, make sure that you're following. I've seen that one on Instagram. And then make sure to follow her podcast, which is also called I've Seen That One. She was on our Black Bag episode, and then she contributed to our And Us Voices Treasured Scene episode as well. So, we're just so excited for her and her new podcast venture that she's starting. And we guested on the Parasite episode, and we're able to dive into Parasite with her. So if you want to hear more of our thoughts on Parasite, be sure to go check out that podcast episode, and it'll be linked in the show notes below.
Yes, yes. We're very excited about that, and just excited for Closer and her new show in general. It's very exciting to see. So keep an eye on this feed. In the meantime, we'll be back with another usual Movies and Us review, and we hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk again with y'all very soon.